I spent about half of the 2020s hosting a podcast called Delayed Replay, recapping and reviewing movies that came out on time in my universe but got delayed in that other universe. And as such, the movies as they were in my universe came out differently. Some listeners not of this universe even think that this is an improvised comedy podcast. And hey, let them think what they want. It's entertaining either way, right? I'm Steven Shinder, and you're listening to Delayed Replay Season 6. Hashtag 6 seasons about movies. New episode every other Saturday. Unless I say otherwise. Hey everyone, before getting into the Legend of Aang, the Last Airbender discussion, I just want to dedicate this episode to my dog Elias, who passed away on Thursday, December 11th. We said goodbye to him, and it was really tough. My brother Alex was there with me during the process, and Elias will never be forgotten, of course. He's been, throughout the duration of this podcast over the years, if he wasn't in the room while I was recording, he was at least somewhere nearby in the house. So, yeah, I'm really going to miss him. And I remember really early on in the podcast making a post about how we watched Scoob. And yeah, so, take a moment and treasure the time you have with your loved ones, whether they be human or animal companions or what have you. Yeah, he was 17 years old, and I wouldn't trade that time for anything. So, just wanted to give a moment for that. I'm sure you all understand. But now we'll get into the Legend of Aang, the Last Airbender discussion that I had with my friend Neiman. And then after that whole chat, there will be a segment about other stuff, like the, non-spoiler thoughts on the trailer or a glimpse of the second season of Avatar: The Last Airbender, the live-action version, some thoughts on the final episodes of the Bel-Air TV show and the South Park season finale, the Doctor Who spin-off The War Between the Land and the Sea, the first couple episodes of Percy Jackson Season 2, and brief thoughts on some newer movies. Again, all non-spoiler. So, without further delay, here is the show. Hello, listeners. Welcome to another episode of Delayed Replay, that podcast where we recap review movies that got delayed in that other universe but came out on time in our universe. I'm your host, Steven Shinder, and on this episode about The Legend of Aang, The Last Airbender, I'm joined by improviser Neiman Araque. You might know him from ImprovCity or Roleplay or anything else. So how's it going, Neiman?
It's going good. Thanks for having me, Steven.
Yeah, great to have you on here. So before we talk about this film, I just want to ask, what's your experience with the Avatar: The Last Airbender franchise?
It's one of my favorite shows of all time. Um, you know, uh, Being a person with alopecia, I connected to the main character for who knows what reason. Uh, but yeah, I love the show. I've watched the whole show, the first show at least, several times over. I first watched it, my gosh, how long ago was that? Yeah, maybe like 2012. So like not when it like came out. But still it was a great show. I did watch Legend of Korra as it was coming out. Um, And I remember watching that with my siblings and being there for the whole drama when that series was coming out and how they had to like take it off the air and then only put it on their their app for a short time. So,
Yeah,
but
their buggy Nickelodeon website app.
yes, yes. Oh my God, it was horrible trying to access it. But yeah, love the show. I've been Aang a few times for Halloween because it's a really easy, you know, baldy costume. It's just some blue paint and you're good. So,
Nice. Yeah, when this show aired, the original show, The Last Airbender, my older brother was really into it. I didn't jump on the train right away for some reason. I think as a kid, I was like 10 or something, and I think I looked at the show and was like, oh, this is just a ripoff of Shaolin Showdown. I don't know if you've heard of that show, but like it also
featuring
involves,
another bald protagonist.
yeah, and like the four elements and stuff, when really it's like that's just a staple of like mythology and stuff. And so it's like
Yeah,
I was just a stupid kid back then or whatever. Um, and it wasn't until I think a few years later, I think I caught like my brother was rewatching some episodes, and I was sort of secondhand watching, and I was like, oh, the show actually seems pretty good. And so I guess I got into it around then, and then when Legend of Korra came out, we watched it as it aired and really enjoyed that. Again, Nickelodeon, like what were they doing with how they were releasing it? It's insane.
yeah.
Um, and I did a rewatch of both shows 4 or 5 years ago, something like that, and really enjoyed them, seeing them all in one back to back. Um, I think, I'm a fan of the franchise, but I feel like I'm not like as much of a like super fan as others are. Like you have all these friends who are like always raving about Avatar: The Last Airbender, and I thought about doing another rewatch of the original show because it was like the 20th anniversary, and I got a few episodes in and was like, this show is good, but I feel like my last rewatch of it was too recent, recent air quotes because 4 or 5 years ago or whatever. But so I feel like others would be like, yeah, I'm gonna power through this whole show. I mean, it's like I got a bunch of other shows I need to get through as well.
Right.
But yeah, and in terms of ranking, I think I landed on like I think I would put Legend of Korra seasons 3 and 4 at the top for me, and then all of the Last Airbender before those, below those rather, and then below that, Legend of Korra seasons 1 and 2, which are still really good. There's some great stuff there. Um, and I don't know, do you have any opinions about the live action stuff?
Uh, the Netflix series that came out recently, I thought was fairly good and a lot better than the M. Night Shyamalan version that came
Yeah,
out. Oh my, I think that was like 2012, um,
2010.
or 2010. Yeah. Um, yeah. I I really did like the Netflix version. I think it's much, I think, easier, especially for a live action, to do a live action series rather than doing like a live action movie, I feel like. Especially since you're trying to condense, a season's worth of material into an hour and a half long format. And I think that's what happened with the first live action that came out. Um, yeah, and there was just so much like packed into it, so I felt like nothing really had time to develop in that first movie. Plus the pronunciations of everything
Yeah.
was horrendous. I almost wanted to walk out when I was watching it. It's like, um,
Yeah.
it's crazy.
So in this film, we get Aang and the gang, as we like to call them. I guess because it rhymes or something. They are young adults, so I guess this would be after like not just the show, but after whatever Dark Horse comics or whatever came out following the show. What'd you think of the voice actors that they got for this? Because it's quite a change up. They got Eric Nam as Aang, Dion Kwan as Toph, Jessica Matten as Katara, Roman Zaragoza as Sokka, and Stephen Yeun as Zuko.
Yeah, I was hesitant at first, because the original voices are just or the original voice actors were just so iconic. Obviously, they were playing children, so I think you kind of had to. Well, I mean, maybe not necessarily since you know they're voice actors at the end of the day, but I was hesitant because I was uh, you know uh, especially with Dante Bosco's performance. Like he was probably one of the best voice actors on the
Yeah,
original
so
cast.
iconic. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I think that one really got to a lot of people when he wasn't going to be playing Zuko again. Um, but Yeah, I Googled who did I Google? Eric Nam's looked up an interview of him because I was curious to know what he sounded like. And it was a voice I wasn't expecting at all coming out of his mouth. But it is also something I can kind of expect for like an Aang type character. It's like kind of like a little bit awkward, but still kind of assertive. Um, and also very young sounding as well. Which I know the movie, takes place while they're, uh, I think in their 30s or something like that. So I think,
Yeah, because I we are stretching the definition of young adult these days. It's so that millennials like myself don't feel as old. So I really appreciate that were like, yeah, they're in their 30s, but they're still technically young adults in this world. And I mean, I don't know like what the longest anyone in this world can live in, but I'm like, yeah, I'm down with this. I'm cool with this part of the mythology, you know?
yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, like Toph ends up being, oh my God, like how old is she in Korra? She has to be like at least 100 at that point, right?
Yeah, like she was probably a major reason why I prefer like the later seasons of Korra a little bit more than the earlier ones. I just love what they did with her. I think I might have seen like people here and there have qualms on I don't know if it's like a disconnect with how she is there, how she is in the original show, but I really thought she was depicted pretty well for the mentor role that she had.
Yeah, yeah. Um, yeah, I was very happy to see her come back. And yeah, still as badass as ever. So
Yeah, and also with the funny lines, giving others a hard time whenever she needs to.
as she should, as she should.
Yeah, and in this world, you do get a sense of, we're not quite to Korra era technology and all that stuff, but there are like little hints here and there of technology progressing. Like it's definitely a bit different from Atla. There was like that one character who was like a firebender and making like their own version of the microwave. What'd you think of that little scene there?
Yeah, 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 yeah. And it felt like such a natural, progression. I mean, in the first series, like you see, yeah, people using their elements or their elemental abilities to do things outside of combat. Heating tea, for example, for when Iroh would make his tea. Um, I guess healing technically is also non-combative, but that's another, adjacent use of elemental abilities. Um, yeah. Um, but yeah, the microwave, excellent addition to the progression of technology from the original series up to the movie.
Yeah. And it kind of becomes a running gag throughout the movie because with this sort of, microwave stuff, they're able to like, basically, grilled cheeses are being sold everywhere now, and Sokka just has become kind of a grilled cheese fanatic. He's become like a little bit like low-key addicted to them. So like once in a while throughout this movie, you'll see he just takes a grilled cheese out of his pocket and just takes a bite or whatever. What'd you
Yeah.
think of that gag?
Very in character for him. Yeah, I feel like he does kind of seem like a grilled cheese guy. Like he's just very like to the point. It's very, flavorful. Um, yeah, I loved the first time he gets the grilled cheese and he decides to put it inside the microwave and make it that way rather than actually grilling it, because that's how he thinks grilled cheese are made, microwaved cheese. Uh, and I just thought that was so funny.
Yeah, like there's that little debate about like what's the best way to cook this thing. So, what do you think of their roles as adults, like amidst, as leaders in the world and how it's changing and stuff?
Yeah, it was fun really seeing them develop into more, I guess, mature. I don't know if mature is the right word. But obviously, you're seeing them as kids in the first series. And what's really great about the first series is that, you get to see these kids and adolescents deal with like world issues. Like they're literally trying to stop a war, you know? And so obviously, there's a lot of psychological kind of psychological and spiritual uh, trauma and underpinnings that go with that. And I think that's one of the aspects of the first show that I really liked, is that it does kind of it deep into a lot of those philosophical and spiritual issues, that I think are really insightful. And so what's nice about this movie is that I think they kind of continue that tradition, and they really carry that philosophy forward, kind of talking more about the elements. And now that they're, out in their own, they're not as together as often as they were in the first series. Seeing them be a little bit more independent and having them take a little bit more charge of their own areas. I think it's been really cool seeing that.
Yeah, and do you even get like these very introspective discussions? Like Aang and Katara will be talking and they'll be like, I kind of feel like we didn't really get to have as much of a childhood as we were able to. We were kind of forced to grow up and fight
Yeah.
this war back then. And you think about how in animated shows, sometimes they just like default to having kid characters because I guess it just seems more fun that way. But if you think about like the real life implications, it's like yo, children going through all these different things, that feels like such a struggle. So I do kind of wonder if they had that in mind when in Legend of Korra they had main characters who were aged up a bit more than the ages that Aang and the gang were, you know?
Yeah, yeah, that's a good point. I remember talking to my siblings about that when we were first watching the series because, obviously, if you watch the original series and, you're watching Korra, they're writing it in mind that probably the audience is obviously growing up as well with these you know and maturing in age, and so they obviously have to age up the characters a little bit more, and so I do like that they kind of had a little bit more. I feel like the whole Korra series did have a little bit more of a maybe in terms of the relationships a little bit more like mature, versus in the first series. I feel like one strong suit of both shows is that they still deal with very mature themes, but in the kid show context, which is, I think, very, very skillful if you're able to pull that off. Because it's already hard enough trying to write in kind of more mature, complex themes, but doing that while still being marketable to children I think is very, very impressive to me. And so I think they do that really well in Korra as well.
Yeah, because sometime maybe earlier this year or something, my brother and I like had been talking about the Last Airbender around another older family member who then asked if, what would I enjoy this show? Should I watch it? And me and my brother were like, like with some shows, especially like I don't know, serialized ones, it can maybe get a little confusing if you're not paying attention too much. But we're like, it's a really great show. It touches on all these topics, like it touches on one of the things being genocide, and that kind of took the her family member aback. So we're thinking to ourselves, oh, but it's not that it's they do it in such a way where it's like palatable. It's like, and it's a real weird thing to say about genocide, that it's palatable on a TV show. It's like you gotta
Yeah.
word it the correct way. It's like it touches on the topic. It doesn't, show anything like graphic or anything. It's a kid's show, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, yeah. My mom, funnily enough, I remember talking to her one day, and she like casually brought up that she had like watched the entire series in like two sittings.
Oh
And
wow.
this was like recently too. But I was just so caught off guard because she usually doesn't watch cartoons at all. But I think she had either watched like the first live action, or I think it was around the time when the Netflix series came out, and so she just decided to watch the Airbender, the Last Airbender on Netflix, because I think it was, on Netflix, and then she watched like the whole thing, and she said she loved it. And yeah, I was just so shocked because, yeah, you know, again, like she's like the type of person who watches shows that are, she likes a lot of like romance shows and movies and stuff like that. And so like a kid's cartoon about, you know, elemental magic was kind of out of her comfort zone for her. So I was just shocked that she liked it so much.
Yeah, and there's definitely I feel like Legend of Korra has a little bit more romance than Atla, but there's of course like,
Yes.
the secret tunnel moment and stuff like that. But yeah, with animation, and I don't know if it's just like in certain regions like the US, for example, but there seems to be this perception among like older generations in certain places that animation is just for kids when really people like us who are y a bit younger are like there are some really great animated things that are very mature and would even rank highly among some of the best live action things. Like to me, Star Wars The Clone Wars is my favorite Star Wars series. Like to me it's like that good. So yeah, animation's pretty cool.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think there's a lot of artistry that goes into animation and a lot of unique things that you can do in a cartoon versus real life. And I think you can kind of use that medium to your advantage and you can explore different topics in different ways that I think are really cool. BoJack Horseman is one of my favorite animated shows, and I think uh, one part of the reason I like it is because it is an animation, and there's a lot of different episodes where they just do different things, and they really play around with that medium. Um, yeah, that show doesn't shy away, obviously, from very dark and very mature topics, but they. I think with animate because it's animated, like they were just able to do it in a way where you still felt the weight of the philosophy of the show, but that the animation and like the way they did and executed it was really really good.
Yeah, I love BoJack Horseman. It's definitely high up there. So we get Aang and his friends, like you said, they've been kind of apart doing their own thing. Zuko is doing his thing, trying to make sure stuff with the people of the Fire Nation is like better than how things were before. But they all get together, to get the band back together type of thing because of this new threat. We get Dave Bautista voicing the new villain. What'd you think of this villain for the film?
I love Dave Bautista. I think he's great in every role I've seen him in. He's super funny. And I think he was the perfect person to cast for this role. I think he kind of had it was funny to me because like the antagonist was such a a similar kind of like world domineering kind of antagonist, but he still kind of had that Bautista kind of. I can't not hear Drax when I listen to him, and so I was thinking that the entire time I was watching. So it was just that dissonance was very very funny to me. But still, he did great as a villain.
Yeah, I even wondered if maybe he's been typecast a bit. Like the villain design looks very similar to him and has like tattoos and stuff. But
Yes.
yeah, he has like this really big stick that he uses as uh, like a weapon, but you know, uh, he's also a bender. So he has this really absurd backstory of how like he worked at a massage practice and at some point, the clients are being unhappy because his bending skills were like, I don't know, br breaking some muscles or some bones here and there. And basically, he's like, as then I realized I was too powerful for this and needed to share my gift elsewhere. And so, long story short, I'm trying to dominate the world. Like, just a matter of fact way he explains it. It was just kind of funny, but also like kind of unsettling how things escalated for him.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I really like that he was they decided to make him a waterbender villain because I feel like the in Korra I feel like the waterbender villain we got in that show was okay. I didn't really like him that much. And so I'm kind of I was excited to see that, we're getting another waterbender villain to, kind of dominate a little bit because water, I feel like water is one of the scarier elements in my opinion, because there's a lot you can do with it. Um, and so, yeah, that escalation of, just going from massage practice into world domination, I think was a little bit silly. But yeah, I think they did it in a way where it was still, you still felt like his presence.
Yeah. And, Aang and his friends get this tip that, there's this, we've talked about the technology marching on. There's like a water plant now. And so they get this tip from a water plant operator that they've received threats from this villain played by Dave Bautista. I keep forgetting his name. I keep wanting to refer to him just as Dave Bautista, but did they say his name in the film? I don't even remember.
You know, honestly, I don't even know if they did in the movie. He could have, I think he was just kind of, you know, had that like massage. I know that his name was somewhere in the massage parlor that he was in. But I think they kind of just kept it a mystery.
Yeah, they kind of just nickname him the water muscle, which is kind of weird to say out loud, but yeah, they go to the water plant and um he arrives with his whole, entourage, his henchmen, whatever you want to call them. And so we get this big set piece and there's like a lot of things getting broken and destroyed in this place. What'd you think of this particular set piece?
Yeah, it was really really fun. I really liked so in Korra, I really did like the even though I know there was a lot of apprehension about the I guess the technology advancements in between Aang and Korra. I think a lot of people were like, "Oh, they're advancing too fast." I personally really liked that they kind of went for like kind of an industrial kind of like vibe because I think that was a really cool setting to see, all of the stuff from the first show, just kind of in this new kind of a slightly more advanced technology, and so I ate that up, and so I really liked that in this particular scene from the movie that we kind of had this happening kind of in similarly in a more like industrial kind of like water plant setting. I think that was really cool, especially since like in Korra like we got more, I guess, like obviously metal bending became big, so a lot of the stuff was kind of more towards that. But it was cool seeing the water benders get a little bit of action in the movie. So.
Yeah. Yeah, so in the aftermath of this, you know, water muscle or whatever they call him, he kind of got the upper hand, having taken advantage of this place and he's basically on his way trying to conquer these different places. So we get like this, it basically becomes like a catch me if you can type of thing. Aang and his friends are like trying to track him down. We get like these map montages where we see the different locations, and one of the places is this castle which they end up finding the bedroom. Well, what'd you think of this scene here?
I thought that this scene at first I was like, hey, this is kind of out of place. But I thought it was cool. I did think that outside of a kind of industrial setting, I would really like to see um, the Avatar world in some a more kind of traditional, like kind of like medieval European kind of setting. I think that'd be a cool place to put some vendors in, and so I was really cool seeing the aesthetic of like this like medieval architecture that they were in. And I liked that, they were kind of they were able to show that as they were looking and trying to find clues in the bedroom. Because I guess the bedroom was from Water Muscle's old wife or something. And so I thought that it was cool seeing that and seeing them kind of interact with the objects there. And I liked the bit as well where they found the bottle of ketchup in her room. And they were just like, why is there a bottle of ketchup? And then that was another bit where we get to see Sokka try a new way to make grilled cheese and make it with ketchup instead. So that was a fun moment.
Yeah, and it turns out it's like really spicy ketchup, so when he tries it like right away, he like they do the animation thing where like fire comes out of his mouth. He's like, "Whoa, am I a firebender now?" Um,
Yeah.
and we this bedroom also has a water bed in it, so that's like another little thing, a little bit of technology, if you can even call it that. But yeah, I thought it was interesting, having uh Water Muscle's wife have a role in this, like they're sneaking around, trying not to get caught, but when she finds them, she's like, "Oh, you want to take down my ex-husband? Okay, I'm down. I'm in." So like she I guess like really hates him because he was, a terrible partner. All he cared about was world domination. He would stop spending time with her. And so I feel like in some other stories, the separation of the couple would be what causes the downward spiral. But what's refreshing here is that no, the downward spiral was already happening and was always going to happen with him, regardless of whether he was married to her or not.
Yes, yes. I agree. That was very refreshing. I think often we see, obviously, most stories are about the relationships between the characters, and so yes, it is interesting seeing them develop over time, but it's also interesting seeing relationships that have already ended and seeing what the aftermath is. So that was really cool. I'm curious to know what your thoughts are on the because in the movie, as the ex-wife is explaining the lore behind them, we get a little bit of a montage of some of the stuff that they've done together. And the song choice was I thought very strange. They decided to use Billie Eilish's "Birds Like a Feather" or "Birds of a Feather," whatever the song title is.
Yeah.
And I just thought it was I don't know, personally, I thought it was a weird choice to include. I mean, I get that the song's about, like being birds of a feather, but I don't know. How did you think that fit with the scene?
Yeah, it felt odd for the franchise, but I feel like that kind of happens with some of these bigger, films based on animated shows, especially if they go to theaters, like they'll insert some high quality song from a big artist. I feel like the Pokemon movies probably did something similar with the first movie, like throwing in a song or two that would like not never be on the actual show. You probably get that with a couple of the Nickelodeon animated movies that went straight to theaters in the 2000s or late 90s even. So this fell in line with that release strategy in terms of that format, that structure, even if it was different from what we're used to with the Avatar, The Last Airbender franchise. And I mean, Billie Eilish sounds great, the music is great, so I was not opposed to it, just a little surprised, but the surprise sort of subsided, like just I don't know, a few seconds in.
Yeah, yeah, and I think it was a good like kind of silly moment where and kind of a break from all of the fighting that's obviously been going on in the movie. Just seeing a fun little like montage and kind of a cutesy couple type of thing. Um, yeah, because I did like in Korra when we got to see like the flashbacks of the gang when they were in different uh, points in Republic City, just dealing with stuff and getting some more character background and stuff. So that was always fun. So I do like when they get to do that.
Yeah, and I guess throwing in a song like this also kind of ties in with one of the elements, pun not intended, of this film, which is, you know, later on, Water Muscle, he takes a couple hostages. One of them is a really famous musician in this world, and the other is like her producer. And he's basically his reasoning is that, in this ever-changing world where technology is marching on, music is becoming the, the thing where you can influence people, and he like wants to be like some sort of muscle music bender or something. Like his wording was like really weird, but yeah, he like takes them hostage and um like it's basically all part of his plan, which is just it feels really silly, and I kind of wonder if it was unintentionally silly or if they're just trying to show us, yeah, he's too far gone, he's lost it, like there's just nothing that can be done for him. Like, I don't know, what did you think?
Yeah, yeah. I think that definitely was an interesting choice. Um, yeah, the whole like, water music and trying to get into that realm as well, I thought was a little interesting. But I think you're right that it does kind of I think it does fit with uh his world domination, I guess, philosophy. Um, which what's nice about the villains of all of the Aang and Korra villains is that they have such strong philosophies or like very clear ideas about how the world should work. Um, albeit, being a villain and all. And so we were able to see that in this film as well, with Water Muscle's philosophy, one of world domination, in the literal sense, but also like in the he very much valued notoriety as well, and kind of just getting that being as famous as possible, whether that be through government or through music. So I think we really got to see that in the movie.
Yeah, and like the final showdown, it feels like such a like it feels like such a kids show thing to do where the final battle is like on this stage, like this arena stage type of thing, and you got like music playing, like they even like have an orchestra of like airbenders playing these wind instruments while this is going on. It's like very theatrical, but what did you think of this scene?
Yeah, it definitely was interesting seeing a kind of like Battle of the Bands type of showdown at the end, with all of the different elements playing different instruments, which I thought was a very cool touch. You got to see like the Airbenders like playing flutes, and then you had the the earthbenders using the rocks to play drums and stuff like that. So I thought that was a very unique thing that we haven't really seen too much of, in particular in the Avatar universe. And so I thought it was cool. I think, yeah, it did kind of get a little, I guess, uh, yeah, a little oh, he's right behind me, isn't he? At the end of with like the you know, the gang realizing like, oh, we're only more powerful if we're together, and like, that being the
Yeah.
thing that finally defeats him in the end, and then they also end up winning the competition as well. But all in all, I think I still really enjoyed it, and I think that they had some cool tableaus at the end.
Yeah, and honestly, I was kind of getting K-pop Demon Hunter vibes, kind of similar
Yes,
style, which was
yes,
pretty
yes,
funny
yes.
that the timing of this coming out just a few months after, or a couple months after that amazing film. Um, but yeah, when they defeated him, and he's getting put in this prison where uh he won't be able to use his powers to harm anyone. And then they do like this other again, like it feels like it's really weird because this movie makes them, the characters that we knew from the original show makes them grown up and they do talk about mature things, but there are also these little tropes that are very reminiscent of kids shows or kid movies where like after all this has gone down, they decide to finish with like a musical number. So, you got the people applauding Aang and his friends, and so they each get on a different instrument and are like a quintet. Yeah, because there's five of them, and they each play a different instrument and play a song at the end before the credits. What did you think of like what they were each doing in this band configuration?
I thought it was fun. I thought, yeah, it was giving, like at the end of Shrek, when they have everyone
Yeah.
singing like Smash Mouth, and I think it was very kind of similar energy, but still fun. Yeah, it was cool seeing them play their different instruments. And yeah, the all of the music in the Avatar series is just absolutely mind-blowing. Last year, I went to an Avatar concert at Segerstrom, and it was amazing. And I was really just blown away at like hearing all of the music live. Just it was so so good. I almost wanted to go this year, but I didn't have enough money this year. Didn't want to spend that much. But the music at the end of the movie was really really top notch, and so.
Yeah, like we have Kitara playing some sort of guitar that fits that era, I guess.
Mhm.
Um, and Toph is like basically singing like that, that type of like metal or screaming singing. Like she's just like super into it. It's really cool.
Yeah.
Um,
Sokka's
and
got a triangle in the back.
yeah, and he eats like triangular slice of grilled cheese while he's like using it. Um, Zuko is like I guess Zuko was like on drums or something because like he really likes the feel of it, all that power and stuff. And Aang, what was Aang playing?
He was really rocking with the flute, and I thought it was a very apt choice for him. And I mean, he sounded great. I think he just really poured uh, his whole Avatar spirit into it. And yeah, it was an odd choice to say the least, considering the other instruments that were played. But I think it was very unique, and I think it actually worked really well together.
Yeah. So is there anything else you want to mention before we go into ratings and such?
I really like that they brought back the or that they brought back Momo and Appa, and then the third new animal protagonist that Zuko has. um, which I forget I think it was like it's like half bear, half cat or something like that. That's what it seemed to be. It had the head of a cat, but like the body of a bear, you know.
Yeah.
And it was super adorable.
Yeah, like they were kind of comic relief throughout, but like even surprisingly had major roles during like a couple of the big fights. So, yeah, and it- animal sidekicks a staple of animation too, I guess. And so it's great that they at least had a place in here, even though they're trying to do this like big movie type of thing.
Yes, yes, yes.
All right. So with that, what's your rating out of 10 for The Legend of Aang, The Last Airbender? And what's your unit of measurement for that score? So it could be like an object or something related to the movie instead of stars, you know?
Mm, mhm. I'm gonna give it a 7 out of 10 grilled cheeses. Um, and I'm giving it a 7 out of 10 because I think that with anything that comes out from the Avatar series, I think that a lot of people expect great things because it comes after such an amazing two shows. And I always felt bad for Korra because I think Korra kind of had expectation that it was going to be um, better or at the same level, if not better, than the first series. And so I think because of that, a lot of people had very high expectations of how that show was going to end up. And so too with this movie, I think a lot of people had a lot of high expectations for this movie. And I did think that they carried uh, through with some of those things that we typically expect from an Avatar uh, piece of fiction, like the strong villain philosophies, the great orchestration. We got to see a lot of different settings as well in this one that were very unique. Um, but yeah, I think just some of the choices for like, the birds of a feather or some of the other kind of sillier moments that fell out of place. I think that's why I wouldn't push it over to like an 8 or a 9.
Okay. Yeah, that totally makes sense. I think I would go for me it's like maybe slightly higher than that because I think I gave the live action show a 7 out of 10. Like I thought that show was fine. Like there are definitely worse live action adaptations. I thought it got I thought it did pretty well for what it was, but at the same time I'm always going to prefer animation for this franchise and, newer characters, newer situations. So I think I would give this 7.25, like 7.25 really big sticks. Um,
Mm.
so yeah, it's enjoyable, but like you said, I think people definitely expect a bit more from this franchise. So and if you're waiting like a really long time to see these familiar characters again, but in this context, it's like, expectations could only be really high. But yeah, I've still enjoyed revisiting the world in this movie. I hope that this means we'll see like even more animated stories, which I think I vaguely remember they might have announced something that takes place in a different era or something. I'll have to like look it up and maybe put it in the edit here. But yeah, for me, like Avatar: The Last Airbender really thrives in animation. So the more of that we can see, the better.
100%. 100%. Yeah, I'm excited to see, what they do for the next. the new I forget what the new Avatar's name is. The one after Korra. But I'm curious to see how that will go.
Oh, Avatar Seven Havens. Yeah, I remember
That's what it was
reading about
called.
that. Yeah. Yeah, they announced it on the 20th anniversary of the original show. So, yeah, I'm pretty excited for that. Yeah, that should be cool.
Yeah, I think it's a cool concept. I think yeah, they're trying a lot of new things with that show. So and like the even just based on the premise alone, like I feel like is pretty cool and I think different from what we've seen so far on the show. So excited.
Yeah. All right. So, I guess I'll do it. Thanks for joining me for this episode, Neiman. Go ahead and plug anything you're involved with so that any viewers or listeners, I should say, are aware of what you're up to.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Yeah, this was super fun. Yeah, if you want to see more, come see some improv shows. I'm always performing at ImprovCity in Tustin, and then occasionally at the Improv Collective in Costa Mesa. So if you want to see more, just try and stop by a show. Would love to see you there.
Yeah, it's always fun. Lots of shows and drop-in classes. You're bound to find something on either of those places' schedules. All right, so that'll do it. And next episode will come out about a week from this one. So stay tuned, everyone. And without further delay, have a good day. All right, so check out the links in the show notes. There you'll also find my socials as well as my website, stevenshinder.com, where you can look up info on my standalones and stepping stones novels. And you can email this podcast via delayed replay podcast at gmail.com. Let us know your thoughts on which element you would bend, I guess. Anything on the periodic table. You can also find me on Yes Shift, a podcast slash vlog that I do with my dad. You know, yes, prog rock, all that stuff. And check out Drum Talk TV and Drum Talk TV Brilliance. And next up, you'll get my other self sharing brief thoughts on the second season of the live action Avatar The Last Airbender, the little glimpses we've gotten, and then he'll share non spoiler thoughts on recent stuff like the final episodes of Bel-Air, the South Park season finale, and maybe some new ish movies and whatever else comes up. So without further delay, here's my other self. Hey everyone, this week we got a teaser trailer for Season 2 of the live action Avatar The Last Airbender. And I can't disagree with the comments I've seen about how it looks too, I don't know, grayish, darkish. Like the colors are just not as vibrant as they are in animation, and it's always going to pale in comparison visually. And I've also seen that meme going around about how the actor for Aang seems to have aged a bit, and the caption says, maybe this is why things are animated. Because I think the original animated show takes place within a year. So, yeah, I don't know. I thought season 1 was fine. If these live action seasons at least get people who don't watch animation curious about the animated stuff and get them into it, then I guess that's something. But yeah, my fandom is, as far as this franchise goes, it's gonna lean more toward the animated stuff, but I'm sure I'll check out this second season at some point. It's supposed to come out in 2026, so we'll see how soon that ends up airing in the year. So I guess I'll begin with Bel-Air, given that Air is in the title and Airbender, Bel-Air. So, you know, the final 3 episodes of this fourth and final 8 episode season dropped on Peacock this week. I watched them, and I would say that I am very satisfied with the ending. I know that when Bel-Air was first announced and people saw that it wasn't going to be a comedy, it was going to be more of a drama. I know some people scoffed at the idea, but to me, it just made sense because if it were a sitcom all over again with an all new cast playing the characters, then there would be too many of the constant comparisons to the original show, The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, which is a classic. People find it hilarious, and so using a more dramatic genre, and again, it's not like too over the top and like soap opera y. It feels natural, and some of the elements of the original show that they weave in and also update it just all works really well to me. And I think fans like me who've been watching this show and rooting for it, we really got lucky that we were able to get 4 seasons out of this with a proper conclusion. I remember at the end of season 3, it was a bit of a cliffhanger, and I worried that maybe the show might not return if there wasn't enough viewership, but we got the final season and we won. And again, without spoiling, there was something toward the end where I did wonder for a while if maybe they would do a lore change, which I'd be fine with, and they went ahead and did it, and the way that it went down, it served the story because it led to a nice speech having to do with a specific type of identity. And there's also another thing that I wondered for a while if the show would do, and they basically waited to the last minute and did it, and it was done so well. A little bit confusing, but it leaves a question or two about like, wait, what? That happened? But I thought it was tastefully done and really fed into the lessons of the show. So, yeah, this was a very complete series, and I'm glad we were able to see it through the end. A worthy successor to the original Fresh Prince of Bel-Air show. Now, another finale that happened this week was the South Park Season 28 finale, which basically felt like a finale to both seasons 27 and 28, which were 5 episodes each, but basically back to back, so it kind of all feels like one season, especially with the political storyline that's serialized through all these episodes. And yeah, the finale was titled The Crap Out, so with that title, you kind of expect, especially as it keeps going, that it's not going to be all neat and tidy the way they try wrapping things up. Like, they do touch on various plot threads that were going on through these episodes of this year, and they do technically resolve stuff, but maybe not in the most satisfying way. So it really makes me wonder, like, if Trey Parker and Matt Stone, like, in the past, they've had trouble with serialization, especially those couple of seasons in the mid 2010s and like 2015 and 2016. So if they're not that into it, serialization, then why do they try it? Like, I don't know, it's kind of puzzling, but yeah, there are some things kind of left dangling, but some things that do end here, and it does feel like there's a little bit of a reset in terms of status quo related things. So I think next season, whenever it may come out sometime next year, it'll feel closer to the South Park that some fans want the show to go back to. I expect that it'll still have the type of political stuff it's been having this year, but maybe it'll be dialed back a bit and not necessarily in every single episode. So I'm very curious to see what ends up happening. But yeah, like this finale, I don't know what they could have done to make it completely satisfying for me personally, but as the season was winding down, I kind of had an inkling that, you know what, they might not be able to stick the landing completely, but they did get certain things done and a bit of commentary, so it is what it is. But anyway, this week also saw the beginning of Percy Jackson and the Olympians season 2. The first 2 episodes of the season came out and they were pretty good. There's a again no this isn't really a spoiler, but there's a chariot race and I kept thinking to myself, man, that capture the flag thing in Wednesday season 2 was fun, but this is so much better this chariot race. So yeah, it's I remember season 2 left me feeling like yeah, this show is fine, but these first couple episodes of season 2 they got me hooked again. So I am actually looking forward to tuning in to this show again week to week. Oh, I also watched the first 2 episodes of the Doctor Who spin-off mini-series, The War Between the Land and the Sea. And I gotta tell you, my expectations for this show were super low. I felt kind of checked out from it, honestly, because it sort of feels like we are shifting between different eras of Doctor Who now. But then I heard some positive buzz about it. I checked out the first 2 episodes, and they were really good. This show has a voice. It's really pointing toward how humanity is still polluting the planet, and there's some drama as these characters, they're called sea devils in universe, but now that they're in modern times they refer to them as homo aqua. They confront humanity about basically their crimes against the ocean, and it's this intense drama, and it's so good. I this had no right to be as good as it is. I've been saying that South Park feels like the show that to me has been event television in this latter half of 2025, whereas other shows that people might consider event television like haven't felt as much like that to me. But yeah, The War Between the Land and the Sea kind of feels like that to me now too, because once the second episode ended, I'm like, I need to see what happens next right now. So yeah, man, it's I don't know what more to say. And yeah, it's a mini series, so it'll just be these 5 episodes. There'll be 2 more on Sunday and then 1 more the Sunday after that. But man, what a time to be alive. Now, kind of a weird thing that I saw was this report online that the Holes TV series is no longer moving forward. And apparently this series would have been a gender bent version. So I don't know if that means the exact characters are like it's meant to be those characters, but they're the opposite genders now, or it's like different new characters, new stories, like maybe completely different backstory and storyline, but similar themes, and it's just that they're all at Camp Green Lake. And I don't know, maybe it's the details aren't all there, at least not where I read, but I imagine that maybe the treasure could have been different, like the context of it could have been different, but yeah, I don't know. And I'm sure people roll their eyes whenever they hear gender bend, and it really depends how it's executed, but I think it could have been an interesting thing to see play out. Since we already got a pretty much perfect adaptation of Holes with the 2003 film, then it's like you might as well just go ahead and do something radically different if you're going to try telling the story again or telling a similar story with maybe the same social themes and whatnot, maybe in a different context. So, yeah, I would have been curious to see how it would have been, but because we don't know like everything about what it would have been and we already have a perfect film adaptation, it doesn't feel like a huge loss. Funny enough, I do remember reading that when the Holes film was being written, an early version of it would have been like so different from the book. It would have been like a post apocalyptic setting, and yeah, that would have been like really whack. But since we do have a perfect film, then I would actually be interested now to see that type of different interpretation of it. Like if it were a post-apocalyptic setting, maybe you could throw in some sci-fi elements for why the kids have these different nicknames. Maybe X-Ray is given X-Ray powers so that he can they can use him to try looking for the treasure that's in the ground, and I don't know, maybe Armpit emits uh, toxic uh, fumes or whatever. Zigzag creates lightning bolts. Like, I don't know. There is all sorts of weird, cool stuff you could do with that type of premise. Maybe even if it were like an animated series and you could have the backstory be different. If it's the future, then the backstory would be further up in the timeline. So, yeah, I don't know. Like, since we already have a great film of it, then you might as well just go super different if you try doing something with Holes again, which who knows now if that'll ever happen, but I digress. Alright, now in terms of newer movies, I got around to watching Oh Hi, which is about this couple and they have different ideas of how, like, where they are, like what type of relationship they have. And so, I almost want to say the basic premise of this, which you could probably find easily, but I think it would actually be better for you to go in not knowing what to expect. So yeah, there's some nuance and some food for thought. Like, it's definitely worth watching. I gave it a 7 out of 10. Maybe it's a 7.5. They're just certain decisions are kind of frustrating, but yeah, it's worth a watch. Jay Kelly, the George Clooney and Adam Sandler movie, I think I'd rate about the same, maybe a little higher. Whenever Adam Sandler is doing something that isn't just stupid BS, I gotta give props for that. Let's see, what else did I watch? Merv came out on, that's a Prime movie, and it stars Zoe Deschanel and Charlie Cox, and they're basically co-parenting a dog after a breakup. The timing of this release was interesting, obviously coincidental because it came out, as I was dealing with stuff with my dog and, the day before I had to say goodbye to him. So, yeah, the film itself is somewhat predictable. The pacing, it kind of is a bit slow, but I'd give it like 6 out of 10. But I'm glad that Zoe and Charlie are getting work. But yeah, just, well, those reminders to appreciate your animal companions and whatnot. I also watched the new Knives Out movie, Wake Up Dead Man, and I wasn't vibing with this one as much for whatever reason. Maybe I was just kind of out of it, or I think certain movies, when they are so centered around religious institutions, I honestly kind of check out a bit. But I don't know, like Ryan Johnson is good with whodunits, so I'm all for him continuing making them however he can. Then there was one battle after another. I'd heard lots of positive things about this, and it's definitely captivating. And even this scene where it's like really drawn out because like the character is trying to uh he keeps getting asked, what's the password or whatever. Like it's still like it doesn't feel too drawn out. Like it's just you hang on to all the different things happening in this movie and what it has to say. So I'd give this one at least an 8 out of 10. And then I saw Sorry Baby. So this one, you might need a trigger warning for this. It's not for everyone. It can get uncomfortable, but I think it raises some interesting points about how tough life is for women and how we really should make it a safer world for women. The 20th anniversary also passed of the Chronicles of Narnia, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. And that film, I have so much nostalgia for that film and getting into reading that series back in elementary school. And it's strange because I feel like my relationship with that series might be slightly different now, but just revisiting that movie and remembering how I felt watching it back then, and also watching the I don't know if it's technically a documentary or docudrama because it has acted stuff, people playing C.S. Lewis and people like Tolkien, but C.S. Lewis Beyond Narnia it was an interesting watch, less than an hour. So yeah, that's pretty much what I've watched this past week. There might be other stuff, but anyway, you can follow me on Letterboxd and see what I rate and review, even stuff that's not really new, but maybe new to me. And on social media, I might post about certain shows and stuff. And I might make another video. Yeah, I have a video planned for the YouTube channel Steven Shinder Reviews in video form. It's TV related, but I'm not sure that I can crank it out before the year ends. So it could potentially be in the new year, but we'll see. It's definitely on my radar. Anyway, thanks for tuning in this week. This podcast will be back next week, and it'll be about that other avatar because, of course. So, without further delay, have a good day.